Now another important concept, small concept, overriding equals method. The same thing. So this object class having the equals method, right? You can also see that object, this equals method is also declared as virtual like the toString method. If you go to the toString method is declared as virtual. Even this equals method is declared as virtual. Now, so we need to understand. Let us directly understand the difference between this equals method and, right. So you can see here I'm declaring one integer variable whose value is 10, and I'm declaring one another integer variable whose value is 20, and I'm using number equals to number 2 double equals to, and I'm using number equals to number 2. Now if you go to the definition of this class, then you can see this equals method returns a value indicating whether this instance is equal to specified value, right? Right. So in this case, what it will check? So in this case, it will check what this number one is holding. Number one is holding 10. 10 equals to number two. If both are 10, then it will return to. Even the same thing, it is also going to check. Number 10 equals to 10. Yes, both are same. So it will return you true in both of the scenario, right? To understand this, what you need to understand, see. So number means it's a variable. Number two means it's another variable. So it is holding 10, it is holding 10. Number one base address is, let's assume the address is this, and for number two, the address is this. So whenever you are using equal operator or this equals method, they are going to check the value what they are holding. In this case, number one is holding 10, number two is going to hold 10. So 10 equals 10. So the output is going to be 10. 10 equals 10, the output is going to be 10. So whenever you are working with the primitive data type, so the whatever the value the primitive data type hold, those values are going to be checked, and if both are same, then they are going to be returned true, else they are going to be returned false. Now let us understand the same thing using the reference type. So here you can see I'm having one reference type means complex type or class. So here I'm having one class called customer, right? In this case, I'm creating an instance of C1, and I'm storing C1 and C2, first name and last name. And I'm creating another reference variable C2, and I'm storing C1. And in this case, I'm using C1 equals to C2, and C1 equals to C1 dot equals to C2, right? Can anybody tell me what will be the output? What it will print in this case? Anyone? Okay. Okay, let me explain you the picture so that you will understand. See, when this statement is executed, so you will only tell me the answer after understanding the flow. So this is nothing but one object created, and it is initializing the first name and last name variable. Now, in the memory, this is your heap memory where object is created, and it is initialized the first name with Pranay, last name is route, and this is nothing but your customer object, and this is nothing but your base address. Understand? This is what happening when the first three statements are executed, right? And also this C1 reference variable is created, and this is the base address. This base address is held by this C1 reference variable, and this is nothing but your stack memory. This is a heap memory, and this is stack memory. So when these three statements are executed, the object is created. First name will assign with value Pranay, last name will assign with value Rahul. Let's assume that the address is this one 10101100, and this address is stored inside the C1 variable, right? And when this statement is created, so what C1 is holding, we will assign the same thing to the C2. Now come to this part, right? What C1 is holding? C1 is holding 10101100. So the same thing is assigned to this variable or not? C2 reference variable is also going to hold the same thing. That means now it is also pointing to the same object. So C1 is holding the same value, and C2 is also going to hold the same value, right? The same base address is now held by two different variables, C1 and C2. Now come to this part. So what it will going to return me? Now just tell me. By looking at the diagram, if I'm comparing C1 equals to C2, and you have to check what value they are holding, right? They are holding this value and this value. Is this both value are going to be same? Hello?
Yes.
Yes. If both value are going to be same, then what it will return?
True.
True. And the same case also here, right? Because they are always going to check the value equality, right? Value equality means this equal operator, or this equals method always going to check what value they are holding. If values are equal, then they are going to return true. Now run the application. See, true and true. Why true and true? Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now let us understand another example. See, here I'm creating one customer object. I'm setting the first name, last name as a Pranay Raut. I'm creating another customer object. I'm also setting the first name, last name as a Pranay Raut, right? And I'm comparing C1 equals to C2 and C1 equals to C2. Can anybody tell me what will be the output in this case?
False.
Hmm? False. And in this case? In this case also it is going to be false. Why? Now observe. So when the first object is created, this will happen. The memory address is C and C1 holding this memory address, right? It is storing first name and last. When the second object is created, it is create another object in the heap memory, and the address is a different one than this one. This address is 1110101100, and this memory address is 10101111. This memory address is going to hold by the variable C2. Now C1 is holding one value and C2 is holding a different value. That means C1 referring to one memory location and C2 referring to another memory location. And in this case, both are having different values, right? So when you run this application, you will see that both are having different value, right? Now the question is that we cannot override that, right? But we, instead of checking the value equality, instead of checking the this value, right, this reference address equality, right, instead of, so both now they are checking the reference address, right? C1 checking this reference address and C2 having this reference address. So this address they are checking now. Instead of checking the reference address, now what I want is I need to check the value. In this reference address, what value are stored, and in this reference address, what value are stored. If both are equal, then I need to return true. If both are false, if they are not equal, then I need to return false. You understand my point? Instead of checking these two values, right, what C1 is holding and what C2 is holding, what I want to check, I want to check the object values. Object values means in this memory location, what values are stored in first name and last name. In this memory location, what values are stored inside the first name and last name. If those values are equal, then I need to return true. If those values are not equal, then I need to return false. And if that you want to achieve, then you need to override the equals method. You understand my point? You cannot override. This is just an operator. Operator you cannot override, right? What you can override? You can override this equals method, because this equals method, if you go to the object class, there is a equals method, right? There are two overloaded versions. I'm specifically talking about this equals method. It's declared as a virtual method. So if this method declared as a virtual method, then I can override this equals method inside my customer class or not? Yes or no?
Yes.
So in that equals method, I can write my own logic to check whether both objects are same or not. Right? How? Let's see.
Hello.
Yeah. Ask me.
In this default, uh, so the equals method will compare the memory address.
Yeah, not the memory address, what value they are holding. In this case, you can say C what value is holding. C is holding one memory address. C2 is holding another memory address. this memory address is going to be checked.
Yeah.
They are not going to check what value they are holding. By
Yeah.
default, see in this case also, if you take the primitive data type, they are not checking. They are checking the value, what value they are holding, right? Number one holding 10, number two holding 10, because these are a primitive data type. They hold the value directly. This value are going to be checked.
Yes, sir.
But in the case of a reference data type, the variable are not going to hold the value. Rather, they are going to hold the reference, right? Reference address. This reference address are going to be checked, not the value that you stored inside that reference address, right? And if you want to check what value they are holding in the reference address, then you need to override the equals method.
So, sir, like if two reference variables are holding the same value, then also we will get the false in this default case.
Yeah, so in this case, you can see this reference address C1 holding the same value, C2 holding the same value. Yes or
Yes,
no?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So in this example, C1 holding the same value, C2 holding the same value. But when I invoke the equals method, right? So this C1 you cannot override this. But even this equals method also going to return me false, na? Even they
Yes,
are holding the same value, this equals method returning me false, right? See the output returning me false, right? Because
okay, sir.
they are checking the reference, right? Whatever reference they are holding, they are checking the reference. Now, if you want to check the value, instead of checking the reference address, if you want to check the value, then you need to go for, right? You need to override this method. You
Okay,
need to
sir.
override this virtual method, right? So
Yes.
how you are going to override? If you want to override the virtual method, you need to use the override keyword, right? So what I'm doing now, I'm taking one object and I'm checking if that object is null, then return false. If that object is not typecast to this customer type, then also return null. And if you omit this truth statement, then it is well and fine, right? I'm just writing this statement for understanding purpose for real time. In real time, how you are going to write. If you are not writing, then this is also fine. So you need to invoke this method. You need to invoke this method on a object or not? Yes or no?
Yes.
And whenever, okay, so in this case, you are invoking this object using which one? You are invoking this equals method on which object reference? You are invoking this method equals using C1 object reference. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so here this is nothing but your C1. Is that clear? Whenever I'm saying this dot fast name means C1 dot fast name. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is the keyboard.
Yeah, this is basically refer to the current instance. On the instance on which you are calling the method. On which instance you are calling the method equals, you are calling the method on C1 instance, right? So this dot first name is nothing but C1 dot first name. So this value will come from it. And then you are passing one object. Yes, C2 you are passing. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And C1, you can store that C1 inside a object variable. Why? Because object is the superclass, na? So as a superclass, it can hold the child class object reference. And why I'm not using the customer class directly here, and why I'm using the object class, can anybody tell me? Because if you go to the definition of this, right? Not this one. So you can see this object class, it takes one parameter of which type? This equals method takes one parameter of which type?
Object type.
Object type. That means the parameter is going to be object only. Is that
Okay.
clear? Because you cannot change the signature, right? If signature are changed, means it's a different method altogether. And signature involve two things. One is name and another is number, order, and a type of a parameter. So the signature you cannot change. Equals method declared using the object means it should be going to be object type. Then what we can do is we can typecast that object to customer. And we know already this typecasting, what is typecasting and how to do typecasting. So I'm typecasting this object to customer type. Now this object will become a customer, and what object you are passing? C2. So now it is going to check C2 dot first name. So this is going to be checked. So this dot first name means C1 dot first name, and this is nothing but your C2 dot first name and operator, and this last name and this last name. So this means C2, C1 dot last name, and this is C2 dot last name. And this is one operator, equal operator, right? If both are same, then it will return true. And if both are same, this will return true. And if this is true and this is true, then only the logical AND operator is going to return you true. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now with this tense, if you run the application, then you will see that this is going to return you false. But now the equals method, which is defined in the object class with the default implementation, is not going to be executed. Rather, this implementation is going to be executed.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Sir,
now, yeah.
Yeah. So, but like in the line number 16 also we can directly check using the class name dot object name like this.
So this
It's like,
statement, na?
yeah, like
You can
C1
write,
dot,
you can check this statement. But the thing is that if you are using this customer class at many places, right? At 10, 20 places, you are using the customer class, and 20 places you are writing this logic to check whether the two objects are equal or not. Do you
oh,
need to write the same logic at 20 places,
no, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this is the, because if you are writing, then there is code duplication. So we
Yeah,
have to avoid code duplication,
yeah,
right?
sir.
Right now, if you run this application, okay, let's run the application and see the second equals method. See, from this the control comes to this part, right? Now this override method is going to be executed now. Okay, now if you see the output, then you will see that this equals method returning true. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. And how to override the equals method and when to override the equals method means when you want to check the value equality. Give me 1 minute. Okay, now you understand when to override the equals method and how to override the equals method. See, if you want to check two objects values, right, not the reference address. If you want to check two object values and to make sure that both of the object having the same values or not, then only you need to override the equals method. Otherwise, not required. And one more thing that you guys you need to remember, while I'm overriding this equals method, I'm getting one error. What error I'm getting? Customer override get equals method, but does not override get hashcode method. What it means? Now it is saying that if you are overriding the equals method, you need to override the get hashcode method, even though it is not mandatory. Even though it is not mandatory, you can also override the get hashcode method. Right? How to override the get hashcode method? Override space. You can see get hashcode method. Right? So what this get hash code method is going to do, it will generate a hash code of your application, right? So let me copy this code, right? So this get hash code method will generate a hash representation of your code, right? So you can say first dot get hash code. So for this first name, it will generate a hash code. Last dot get hash code. For the last name, it will generate a hash code. And you know what is this logical bitwise or operation? So can anybody tell me what is the use of bitwise or operation? We have already discussed in operators, na? Bitwise OR operation means it will perform a bit by bit operation. If both the bits are different, it will gives you 1, and if both the bits are same, then it will gives you 0, right? So we need to understand this example, right? So what I'm doing here, give me 1 minute. See, guys, see. So what I'm doing here, I'm creating one variable r, and what I'm doing, I'm c1 dot get hash code, right? And what I'm doing, I'm creating another variable, let's say rs1 and rs2, and here I'm calling the get hash code method, right? And I'm now let's run the application and see what happens. See, so when now it is calling on the see, you can see this statement is highlighted, means this get hash code is now calling on the C1 object. So what this method will do, see, first name is Pranay, and when you write on click on this and click on the quick watch, then you will see that for that first name it generate a hash code. Hash code means it's an integer value, right? You can say 622680803. This is the hash code of this first name variable, right? So this is the hash code of this first name variable, and again it will generate a hash code of this variable also. Okay, quick watch. Again you can see for the last name this is the hash code. Then what he will do, so he will convert this hash code to a byte code, or you can say 0 and 1, and he will convert. Okay, let me copy this value, copy, and let me paste it here. This is the hash code for last name. Okay, last name hash code, and then another copy is there. Hash code means it will generate some integer number. Quick watch, and this is the hash code. Let me copy this one also, right? So this is the first name, right? So what he will do, so he will convert, in this example, he will convert this number, this is a decimal number, he will convert the binary equivalent. Again, he will get the binary equivalent of this number, right? So he will generate the binary equivalent of this number, and he will generate the binary equivalent of this number. Once, let assume that the binary equivalent are like this. Let assume that the for the last name binary equivalent is this, right? So as per the logical OR operation, when both the bits are different, then it will return, if both the bits are different, then it will return 1, and else it will return 2. 1 1 it will return 0, 0 1 it will return 1, 1 0 it will return 1, 0 0 it will return 0, 1 1 it will return 0. So this is the bitwise XOR operation of these two numbers, right? So it will generate this, and then it will convert that number to its equivalent integer, and then that will be written now. Okay, now function F10, right? So you can see this is the number, right? So after performing the bit by bit operation, then it will convert that number to into its equivalent, right? So what is that equivalent? In this case, the equivalent is this one. This is the hash representation of this binary number. You understood or not, guys? You are at the same place. See, for this last
Yes,
name,
sir.
for this last name, this is the hash code. Let's assume that the binary representation of this hash code is this one. For the last name, the hash code is this one. Let's assume that the binary equivalent of this hash code is this one. After generating these two, so it will perform a bitwise operation. Bitwise operation means when both bits are same, it will return 0, and when different, it will return 1. Let's assume that for these two hash code, for these two binary representation, the binary number is this. And then it will convert that binary number into its equivalent hash code. Let's assume that the hash code is this one. Then that hash code is returned to this variable, right? Now, when the second time this statement is executed, again the first name and last name are same or different? First name and last name are same. So, okay. Function F10, again you can check this first name. See, the bytecode is the hash code is going to be same for first name, and again the hash code is going to be same for this one also, right? So again the same operation will be done, and again the hash representation of that object will be returned. Now you can see both are going to be the same hash code 934, end with 934, and this is also end with 934. That means what? Now using the get hash code, you can also compare the values whether both the objects are equal or not. So in this case also you can compare the values and you can check whether both are having same or not. So you can write like this. Let's assume that this is a hash code 1 and let's assume that this is a hash code 2, right? So you can also do the operation like this. So now once you implement the, now you can see uh, the hash code method is overridden, and that error, see whatever error we previously got, right? That error is gone. Now see, if I comment, I'm getting one warning. I'm getting one warning that you have not override the get hash code method. Even though it is a warning, warning means it is not mandatory. If it is an error, then it is mandatory. It's a warning means you can ignore the warning, but I'm just showing you, even you can uh, implement, you can override the get hash code method and you can check whether the two objects are same or not. So here it is checking the value, and here it is not checking the value. It will generate a hash code of the values, and then based on the hash code it is going to check whether both are same or not. Now if you run, you will see that get hash code is also going to return you true. See, it is also returning you true. Now if I do a small changes, see, right? So I'm just adding 1. Then the hash code is going to be changed, the value is going to be changed, and hence you will get false in all the cases. Right? You are getting false or not? You are getting false, false, false. Now one more thing. Now instead of checking the where we have done the changes routed, now it is now if you only want to check whether the first name are equal or not, and you don't consider the last name to be the checking criteria, and if you are thinking if first name are same, then I need to return true, then you can simply ignore this one. And in this case, so this hash code is going to be written false, but this statement is going to return you true because first name is pronoun and here first name is pronoun. So last name is not a criteria to check whether the object are equal or not. So now in this case, you will see that equals method will return you true. Is that clear?
Yes.
Sir. Right. So in your real time, so whenever you are getting two different objects,